Peace world, this is Brother Ali. I'm in London right now with Blatantly Blunt. Keep it right here.
Right now you're watching Blatantly Blunt TV, alright?
Alright, this is Nick from Blatantly Blunt and I'm feeling honoured to be here today with a real hip-hop, lyrical genius, goes by the name of Brother Ali. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, man.
It's great to meet you, man. Nice to meet you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day before your show here in North London.
Thank you.
At the Dome, I used to come here when I was younger and it's completely changed, but it's good to see they're bringing some real talent through the doors, man, and bringing that real hip-hop to the stage, bro. So, yeah, welcome to London. You've been here a few times before?
I have. I started coming in 2006, I think.
Okay, a little while back, yeah. It changed a lot since you last came?
It has. Yeah, we used to, the first time I came, we stayed in King's Cross.
Okay.
And it's not like it is now. At that time, it was, at that time it was really run down.
Run down.
Yeah. And, it felt like at nighttime, it felt like when you got caught dodgy. You know what I mean? But now it's like hipster. You know what I mean? Yeah, which is very similar to what happened in so many cities. You know what I mean? A lot of places that's like that, Harlem is that way, and like a lot of cities, DC, Washington DC is the same way.
Gentrification or that kind of?
Yeah, gentrification and just neighborhoods changing.
Development.
Yeah.
Alright, so it's been a few years since your last project. What made you return back to the booth to record this new one?
Well, I went and talked to, some people about spirituality. So I sought out the people that I thought to be spiritual masters and spent time with them and asked them to teach me and asked them to help me get my heart right and help me try to, just become a more genuine, loving, sincere person. And so they did, and they do, and they've been helping me a lot. And they actually told me that it was time for me to make more music. And so I started making this album. Basically, they give you assignments to do. So sometimes they'll tell you, go start a garden and learn how to do it and feed people with it, and that'll be your path. With mine, they said it's time for you to make more music.
And that kind of leads me on to the next question, because one of the things that stood out for me is that people, where you're saying that people are misusing their heart, and that kind of leads me on to the question, why are people misusing their heart, and what are hearts for?
Yeah, well, hearts are a receptacle of light. Hearts hold light. You think about the fact, what is it that makes us human and different from animals? So they would say that the human is the crying animal, the human is the laughing animal, the human is the speaking animal. We're the only animals that when we reproduce with each other, that we're actually intimate. Other animals, they just run up on whoever they can. You know what I mean? And that's understood in human beings that, like, you can't just have sex with a woman because you caught her. You know what I mean? That she's, So what it is to be human is to really have a living, loving heart that knows the difference between truth and falsehood. That's how, So much of the modern world is reductionist. Like, they've reduced our lives to just material, just what you can see, hear, touch, and they say that that's the only thing real. And then if they say anything other than what's material, they'll talk just about the mind. Let's say the power of your mind, and your mind can do this, and your mind can... Well, that the mind is good and the mind is real, but what's even more essential to who we are is our heart. And the heart is what knows what truth is. The heart is what knows what falsehood is. The heart is what knows what evil is and what good is. And the heart is, where all good and virtuous things come from. So that's what the heart is for.
Yeah.
And why are we using it for something different? I believe it's because of the time that we live in.
Yeah.
And a lot of, the Muslims love science. The Muslims have been, out of all of the spiritual systems, we've contributed more to science. We laid the foundation for science. So algebra and algorithms and the number zero and like all, mathematics and all, number system and all this stuff. The Muslims invented and really developed a lot of those things and gave them to the world.
What 5 words would you use to describe, to give somebody who's not even heard the lead single to describe the album?
Well, these will sound like a claim, they sound, but this is what I hope would be real. I would say, first of all, obviously beauty. The whole thing is about beauty. The intention behind it all is beauty. Sincerity, presence, love, togetherness.
I like that, yeah. Okay, so I mean, bringing it back to society, talking about all the issues that are happening in the States at the minute, would you say that we're living in a post-racial, post-bipartisan, I know the two questions there, society, would you say that we've kind of gone past the kind of binary way of saying left, right, black, white? You think that things are more complicated than that nowadays? Or do you think it still stems down to the organic two?
Yeah, well, basically the world underwent a major transformation when we shifted into the new world and into the modern world, and modernity is about believing ourselves to be better than our ancestors, and nobody before us thought that. Not in any part of the world. It's a timeless, universal virtue that my parents are better than me. My grandparents, like, they don't make them like that anymore. Our ancestors are like, I owe everything to them, and I would love to be worthy of them. We're the first people that think we're smarter than our parents. And it's because of technology. It's because, my grandma doesn't know how to FaceTime. You know what I mean? But she knows how to build a house. She knows how to raise crops. She knows how to, raise animals. She knew how to make a family. She knew how to console people when someone dies. She knew how to deliver babies. She probably delivered her sister's babies. You know what I mean? Like, these people knew real life things that we have no idea about. You know what I mean? If the truck stopped delivering food to the grocery store, well, we would starve to death. We don't know how to do anything. For our real lives, we don't know anything. They knew they were better than us, and so what changed that is the idea of race. So when the idea of race came, people really threw away, especially with the idea of whiteness. Like, people threw away their ties, their real life connection in terms of the way that they live life, the way that they determine their priorities, who they understand themselves to be, the meaning of our lives. We threw away the fact that we're connected to ancient Celtic people, or to Germanic tribes, or to, Polish, well, like, what that really meant. We gave all of that up for the idea of being white. And say, well, okay, what does white mean? White means that I'm supposed to be superior to other people. It means I'm supposed to have power. It means I'm supposed to be dominating. It means that I have the right to own everything, everyone and everything. So, I think we're in a time now where people who have been called white start realizing, like, this wasn't for my benefit, because I'm still poor, and really it was the owners, the 1% that created that idea, and they did it so that because poor European people used to rebel against the landowners, and they used to rebel, and so how do we get those people to, like, buy into our program? Psychically and psychologically, you create this idea of whiteness. And so now we're in a place where the people who have been called white for 400 years, they're starting to realize, like, this wasn't for my benefit. I'm being used. And I don't want to be superior to anybody else. I've been trained to be that for 400, 500 years, though. So we're not going to get rid of that training just because we decide to. But then once I decide I don't want to be superior to anybody, or I don't think that I'm superior to anybody, but then who am I? You say, well, like, I'm an Englishman. What does that mean? What's English like? And we can say tea, and we can say, and there's a lot of meaning there, but we've lost a lot of it. Everywhere you go in the world, I mean, they're eating the same McDonald's, and they're watching the same Netflix, and they're doing the same so-and-so. And that's what's determining life. So we may have some certain things that we hold on to, symbolic things from our past. But in terms of really determining, what does it mean? What does my family mean? You know what I mean? There's families in England, for example, like the bakers. Who are the bakers? What does that mean? what's the crest, and what does it mean to be a baker, and how do I embody that, and how does that inform the way that I live life and my priorities and the way that I set up my life. We've lost a lot of that. So we're not post-racial, and I don't know if we can ever be post-racial. And the only way to really regain like some sort of organic sense of being a human being, in my opinion, is to have a connection to some pre-modern wisdom traditions. To just at least allow them to be in the mix with all of our modern stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like if we're rejecting everything pre-modern, then we're never gonna be outside of modernity.
For sure. So as an artist that tours the world and performs at shows and sells your word, your written word from your mouth to people, to music fans around the world, do you feel as though you have a privilege to use that word that you think that you benefit from, that non-artists do not benefit from?
Oh, non-artists.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So as an artist compared to non-artists, is there something that you benefit from that we may not be aware of, that you notice that we don't notice because we're not an artist?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, an artist is a very peculiar profession, you know. It's not for everybody. It's not for most people. Just like being a doctor is not for everybody, it's not for most people. Just because somebody's really smart doesn't mean they should be a doctor. You know, being a doctor is to be a healer. But it also has, so there are things, you know, I'm privileged to be able to travel. I'm privileged to be able to see the world, to interact with people on a level that most people never get a chance to. So yeah, there's a lot of privilege. It's a privilege to live through your heart, you know, but there's also a lot of challenges, and there's all those things have consequences. You know, I don't have the same stability that a lot of people have. You know, people think that because you're always on tour and you're always doing shows, and that means that you're wealthy, and it's not true. It is not true. Nothing could be further from the truth. You know, somebody who went to college or uni and has a good job, they probably do better than I do. Even me doing this 15 years, sold out shows all over the place, all that kind of stuff, the expenses are really high, especially if you want to do it at a high level. And if you want to employ people and you want to treat those people right and all that kind of stuff. You know, I've been on tour for 2 years. I haven't been in my house for more than 4 days at a time in 2 years. I have an amazing wife and amazing children. And I love being at home, and I don't get to be there. And when I get done from all of this touring, you know, I've been, in the last couple of years, I've been to, you know, the Middle East and Africa and you know, Turkey and all over Europe and all over America and, you know, Spain and all these beautiful places. When I get home, I'll probably have enough money where I don't have to work for like 2 months. And then I'm gonna have to get back into it again. You know what I mean? And there's nobody that will give me a check. Just because I work hard doesn't mean I'm guaranteed to make money. So there are privileges and benefits, and then there are also, and also it can be very heartbreaking too. You know, to live through your heart all the time.
Definitely.
Yeah, as you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Hip hop in 2017, it's a very polarized space. Are there any particular artists that have emerged particularly strong in 2017 that really grabbed your attention that you've been impressed by?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great hip hop, and I even like. I won't have any bad feelings or judgment about like what they call like mumble rap or anything like that. I refuse to do it because those people came from us. And so, like, if we hate them or we, you know, think they're stupid or something like that, they're our kids. So, you know, we have to love them, embrace them, look for the good in what they're doing. You know, there was a time that all of this stuff is black music. It's black genius. And there was a time in black music when scatting was very popular. You know what I mean? Ski-bop, dee-dee-dee-boo, ba-da-da. Those weren't words. You know what I mean? And people were like, we wouldn't look back at Ella Fitzgerald and say, that's nonsense. You're mumbling. You know what I'm saying? That was about the energy and about the cadence and about the musicality of it. And so I think we should always embrace them. But that's not my favorite type of music. But
would you say Logic is somebody that's impressed you? I'm interested to know because he's got a message which really connects with me. I haven't lived his life, but I definitely feel like what he's saying is relevant when I hear it. Is that somebody who's grabbed your attention?
I think he's a great rapper, man. I think he's a great rapper. I think that he's trying to be very sincere. I think that so my wife works at a suicide crisis hotline. She's becoming a counselor. She's getting a master's degree to be a clinical therapist. So right now our internship, that's what she does. And when Logic put out that song talking about suicide prevention hotlines, she has kids, bro, that call her all the time. Like she'll do a whole shift with people calling in because they're on the brink of committing suicide. And she said the oldest caller I got is 13 years old. And they're calling because of him. So like he's got my respect forever just for that song. Yeah. There are some things that like what he was doing with like Neil deGrasse Tyson on his album and all that. That didn't speak to me at all. You know what I mean? But he's a great rapper. He seems to be a really genuine, sincere person. So yeah, I like him a lot. But I mean, I love Sob Rock. This woman from Atlanta. I think she's really amazing. I really like Rhapsody a lot. I still haven't heard Sahai the Prince album, but everybody that I know talks about how dope it is. I just haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. I've been traveling and stuff, but I can't wait to hear that. And and I love Kendrick, and I love Jay-Z's album, and I love J. Cole, and there's a lot of good music, man. Atmosphere still makes great music. A$AP Rock is rapping better now than he's ever rapped before. You know what I'm saying? Tech Nine still like, you know what I mean? Extremely high level of rapping. There's a lot of like really dope music. Man, I just recently came to the realization that Lil Wayne is one of the greatest of all time. And that's and that's an unpopular opinion. Especially in my circle of artists. But I mean, he has so much music, and like regardless of what you think about the type of metaphors he does, every single line he's doing something. Like there's no throwaway lines. Every line he's doing some sort of like simile or like he's doing something in every single line for so many years and songs, and like he's amazing, man. And his musicality, like he sounds like a blues man. You know what I'm saying? And he comes from Mississippi, so like, yeah, man. Yeah, I love it.
One reason why a certified hip hop fan should listen to your new album.
I think that if for no other reason, I'm offering something that's very unique.
Yeah.
What you'll hear on my album, you're not going to hear in other music. And so you deserve to at least know what it is. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Like you don't have to like anything. But I think that people deserve to know that my music exists and to at least be able to hear it and experience it. That if you don't check out everything, then you can't say that you're a hip hop head.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.